Gaza, you will rise. Palestine will never die.
Riot gear cleared the pro-Palestinian encampment, and now university officials have reopened the main university park campus to.
Antisemitism never really disappears. It rises, it falls, it changes shape, and right now it's rising again. What we're seeing in the United States is not isolated outrage. It's not random, nor is it spontaneous. It is organized and it is ideological. It has been incubating for years. This is not a solutions video. We'll leave that for another day. This is a diagnosis video. We're going to walk through how this wave built, who amplified it, and why so many institutions that should be pushing back aren't. According to the national tracking data, anti-Semitic incidents have reached record highs. This is not online noise. It's vandalism and harassment. It's intimidation and it's dangerous physical violence. Synagogues are targeted. Jewish students are regularly threatened. Families are afraid. This isn't rhetoric. It has consequences. It has victims, and it has prison sentences, as you can see on the screen. The question is, why now? Universities did not simply react to this wave. In many cases, they helped incubate it. This is not about every professor. It's not about every student, but it's also not a fringe handful either. A significant number of faculty members, with many with tenure, have openly aligned themselves with activist networks that frame Israel as uniquely illegitimate and Jews as political oppressors within a rigid oppressor-oppressed framework. Tenure protects academic freedom, but it also protects influence. And when influential faculty openly align with activist networks that blur the line between anti-Israel rhetoric and anti-Semitism, the university is no longer neutral ground. The university becomes an amplifier. Students don't just hear protest language. They hear it validated by authority, by their own professors. This helps explain why campus encampments gain traction so quickly and why so many students were already primed to interpret the conflict through a single moral lens. But ideology alone does not organize national demonstrations overnight. Infrastructure does. One of the most striking elements of this wave was its speed. On October 8th, just one day after the attacks in Israel, coordinated demonstrations were already taking place across American cities and campuses. They were already calling it genocide. Israel had not even responded yet. Messaging was aligned. Chapters were mobilized in sync, and that kind of coordination does not materialize in 24 hours. We all understand that. It tells us something important. The infrastructure was already there. Large-scale demonstrations require resources. They require transportation, they require printed materials, legal support, and media coordination. We know that foreign governments, including Qatar and Saudi Arabia, have poured billions of dollars into American universities over the past 2 decades. Okay. That does not automatically prove direct control over protests. But when ideology, infrastructure, and foreign money intersect, transparency becomes critical. Movements do not appear overnight. They're built. They are networked. They are funded. October 8th was not the beginning. It was the activation date. To understand why this wave has spread so widely, you have to understand that something happened inside parts on the modern left and within the Democratic Party over the last few years. It divides society into 2 groups, the oppressed and the oppressor. And that's it. Every issue is filtered through that lens. In that framework, Israel is categorized as powerful, militarily strong, Western aligned, and economically developed. So it is placed in the oppressor category. Palestinians are placed in the oppressed category, of course. Once that classification happens, the moral verdict is assumed. Oppressors are wrong, the oppressed are justified. And Jews, particularly Israeli Jews, stop being seen as a minority people with a long history of persecution. They become power. That's how the lines blur. That's how rhetoric escalates. And that's how anti-Semitism re-entered the mainstream, wearing the language of social justice. If this were just fringe activism, it would have burned out long ago. What has made this wave different is the response, or more accurately, the lack of one. Universities did not just hesitate, they froze. In too many cases, they chose not to act. When asked directly whether calls for the elimination of Israel or rhetoric targeting Jews violated campus rules, some of our major university presidents in front of Congress struggled to give a straight answer. If leaders feel constrained when clarity is required, that's not just a campus issue, that's a national issue. Anti-Semitism never really disappears. It adapts, it evolves, it waits for moments of instability, political division, institutional weakness, and moral confusion, and then it rises. That's what we're seeing today. And what we're seeing today did not begin on October 7th. It was building in classrooms. It was activated through large activist networks. Inside too many institutions, it was reframed. It was excused. Worst of all, it was rationalized. History does not repeat itself in identical form, but it does echo. The warning signs are never dramatic at first. They're normalized, intellectualized, and justified, too often by leaders we count on to push back. The question is not whether anti-Semitism exists in America. It clearly does. The only question is whether we recognize it early or only after it's already reshaped our institutions. It's certainly not too late to push back hard, draw clear red lines, and not only refuse to let the scourge define our public discourse, but to dismantle the structures that allowed anti-Semitism to get this far in America. I hope this video helps you understand just how ready the anti-Israel, anti-Jew organizations were for this. They knew a war was coming, and they were well organized. They were well financed. The Muslim Brotherhood has always said this was a long play strategy for them. 80 years was their target. Many of these professors are well connected to the various outshoot organizations that are either still affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood or align with them if they themselves don't have direct ties. Well, I did not want to get spread all over the place in this video. Their social media programs were wildly successful, so much more successful than they ever dreamed. This, of course, added to the quick success they had on campuses, as every kid on campus is tied to social media all day long. This, of course, added to the reinforcement of the ideas that they were simultaneously hearing on campus. It became a reinforcing propaganda loop, keeping them in the propaganda bubble virtually 24/7. I did an earlier video talking about the social media component in the pro-Palestine marketing. This was a real wake-up call for all of us, not just about anti-Semitism, but about the new information world we live in. How any group that wants to get propaganda out there and keep control of the messaging can work, and just how hard it is to counter the message against it. I don't feel particularly good by what has been learned by those responsible to counter events like this. I hope that the many nonprofits that are the usual voices that counter events such as what we saw across the country demonizing Israel and Jews actually sit down together to strategize and actually create and have ready to go counter messaging on multiple platforms. So we never see the haters have full control of the messaging, rendering our voices impotent again. Thank you for watching this special video on how anti-Semitism crisis happened. Please subscribe to the channel. It's the absolute best way to get YouTube to share my videos in their algorithm. Please like this video and comment below.